Welcome to Gist Vlog channel. In today's video, we'll be talking about a man named Ernie Pyle. Ernie Pyle was a big deal during World War II. He was a writer who told stories about regular people, especially soldiers. His words made millions of Americans feel connected to the war, even if they were far away from fighting. So, who is this Ernie Pyle you are talking about? Alright, let's find out. Ernie Pyle was born on August 3, 1900, in a tiny town called Dana, Indiana. His full name was Ernest Tyler Pyle, but everyone just called him Ernie. He grew up on a farm with his mom and dad, Maria and William Pyle. Life on the farm wasn't easy. There were lots of hard work, like planting crops and feeding animals. But Ernie didn't love farming. He was a quiet kid who liked to read and dream about adventures. He wanted to see the world, not just to stay on the farm forever. Ernie went to a small school nearby and he was pretty smart. After high school, he didn't know exactly what he wanted, but he had big plans. In 1918, he was already 18 years. World War I was already happening. Ernie wanted to join the fight, so he signed up for the US Navy Reserve. But the World War ended before he could do much. But that didn't stop him, because he was already thinking about what to do next. After the war, Ernie decided to go to college at Indiana University. He studied journalism, which is all about writing stories for newspapers. He was good at it, but he didn't finish school. Just a few months before he was supposed to graduate, he quit. Why? Because he got a job at a little newspaper in LaPorte, Indiana. Ernie loved writing and he couldn't wait to start. Ernie worked hard at that newspaper. He wrote about all kinds of things, people in town, local events, anything interesting. Then after a while, he moved to Washington, D.C. to work for a bigger paper called the Washington Daily Newspapers. There, he met a woman named Geraldine Sibos. Everybody called her Jerry. They fell in love and got married in 1925. Ernie and Jerry liked to travel together, and he started writing stories about the places they went. People loved reading them because Ernie made everything sound so real and fun. In the 1930s, Ernie got a cool job with a company called Scripps Howard. They let him travel all over America and write about what he saw. He called himself a roving reporter. He didn't write about fancy stuff or big leaders. Instead, he wrote about regular folks like farmers, workers, and families trying to get by during tough times. This was during the Great Depression, when lots of people didn't have jobs or money. Ernie's story made readers feel like they knew the people he met. His writings were simple and friendly. He didn't use ambiguous words. He just told it like it was. Soon, his stories were in newspapers all across the country. By 1940, Ernie was famous. He even bought a little house in Albuquerque, New Mexico, with Jerry. It was their home base, even though Ernie was always on the move. Then, everything changed in 1939, when World War II started in Europe. At first, Americans stayed out of it, but Ernie wanted to see what was happening. In late 1940, he went to London, England. A big battle called the Blitz was going on. German planes were dropping bombs every night. Ernie wrote about the people trying to survive. He told stories about families hiding in shelters and firefighters rushing to put out fire. Americans loved reading his words because he made the war feel close, like it was happening next door. When Americans joined the World War in 1941, after the attack on Pearl Harbor, Ernie knew he had to do more. He became a war correspondent, that's a writer who goes where the fighting is. He didn't care about the generals or big plans. Ernie wanted to be with the soldiers, the regular guys doing the hard work. He called them the GIS, which stood for Government Issue. To Ernie, they were the real heroes. Ernie traveled all over with the soldiers. He went to North Africa, where the desert was hot and sandy. He went to Sicily and Italy, where the fighting was tough in the mountains. Then, in 1944, he was in France for the D-Day. That's when Allied troops landed on the beaches to fight the Germans. Ernie didn't just watch from far away. He walked with the soldiers, slept in tents, and ate the same food they did. He got dirty and tired just like them. His stories were different because he wrote about little things, like how soldiers missed home or how they joked around to stay brave. One of his famous stories was about a soldier named Captain Wasco who died in Italy. Ernie wrote about how the other soldiers carried his body down a hill and said goodbye. It was so sad and real that people back home cried reading it. In 1944, Ernie won a big award called the Pulitzer Prize for his writing. That showed how much everyone loved his work. Ernie didn't just write, he tried to help the soldiers too. He noticed that pilots got extra money for flying, called flight pay. But the soldiers on the ground who were fighting just as hard didn't get anything extra. Ernie thought that wasn't fair, so he wrote a story saying soldiers should get fight pay. People listened, and in 1944, Congress made a new law giving soldiers more money for being in combat. They called it the Ernie Pyle Bill. That's how much power his words had. After years in Europe, Ernie was tired. The war was hard on him. He saw so much death and sadness. He went back home to rest, but he couldn't stay away. In 1945, he went to Pacific, where Americans was fighting Japan. He joined soldiers on a tiny island called Shima, near Okinawa. On April 18, 1945, Ernie was riding in a jeep with some soldiers when a Japanese machine gun started shooting. They jumped into a ditch to hide, but when Ernie looked up, a bullet hit him in the head. He died right there. He was only 44 years old. When people heard Ernie was gone, they were heartbroken. Soldiers who knew him put up a sign where he died that said, "At this spot, the 77th Infantry Division lost a body, Ernie Pyle." Back in America, President Harry Truman said, Ernie told the story of the soldiers better than anyone. Millions of readers felt like they lost a friend. Ernie Pyle's grave is in Hawaii now, at a place called the National Memorial Cemetery of the Pacific. But his real legacy is in his writing. He wrote books like Here Is Your War and Brave Men, which are still around today. His stories showed the world what soldiers went through, not just the battles, but the feelings too. He made people care about the little guys, the ones who didn't get medals but kept going anyways. Ernie wasn't perfect. He and Jerry had a tough marriage. She was sick a lot and he drank too much sometimes. But he never stopped caring about people. Even now, schools and museums like the Ernie Pyle World War II Museum in Indiana kept his memory alive. There was even a movie about him called G.I. Joe in 1945. So, who was Ernie Pyle? He was a farm boy from Indiana who became one of the most famous writers in America. He didn't chase glory, he chased stories. Real stories about real people. During World War II, he gave soldiers a voice and brought the war home to everyone else. His words made people laugh, cry, and think. Even though he's gone, Ernie Pyle's stories still matter. They remind us that even in the hardest times, it's the everyday people who make a difference. Thank you for watching. If you liked learning about Ernie Pyle, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more content like this. Let me know in the comment section what you think about Ernie Pyle. If there is someone else you would like me to talk about, see you next time.